Hello there, and welcome to the first of our E3 2017 conference post-mortems. This time around, we're starting with EA, which was very, very interesting. Joining me today, we have Pedz. Say hello, Pedz.
Hello.
We have Super Dragon 64,
Hello.
and we have Captain Kinopio. Say hello.
Fusion.
And of course, I am your host, Cheeky Devlin. Returning from quite a break because I gave up the podcast and Carl took over, so it's been a while since I've done anything like this. So it's weird. It's like slipping into a pair of old slippers and trying to get used to it again. So yeah, that's fun. Anyway, let's dive right on in. But not so much because there's a lot to talk about. It's just that it wasn't a great show, was it? For me, there wasn't any real surprises there. They showed exactly what we kind of expected them to show.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. And with the exception of maybe one or two things, yeah, that was it. So I mean, Canopy Man, what did you think? What was your initial reaction to it?
Well, I was watching it along with Chalky and Peter Crisp, and I think we all kind of had pretty much the same reaction. Well, I think my instant reaction was that it was absolutely terrible, and it was a very bizarre ending. But having kind of gone back over some of the stuff they showed, it wasn't that bad. Just nothing was shown in a particularly interesting way, and the lack of any surprises doesn't help it at all, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's definitely something that I can get on board with. It's like the stuff that they showed we expected, and they, like you said, they didn't show it in a particularly interesting way. It was just like, oh, here's FIFA, for example, and yeah, there's, it's weird. They seem to spend so much time on FIFA, but say very little about it. It was like they spent like 5-10 minutes on it, and all they really said was, "Oh yeah, there's a sequel to the story mode."
I mean, I've been watching the Easy Allies guys and what they think about it, and they've said that it's difficult to show FIFA because you're not really going to convince anybody that FIFA is interesting. The people who are interested in it are interested in it, and the people who aren't just don't care. And I don't think you're really going to get them to care. So you just kind of have to find some kind of interesting way to do it. And I suppose getting those two, I didn't know who those guys were, and they didn't seem particularly funny to me. But kind of hiring people to explain the game in an amusing way is a better way of doing it than last year, where they just got that guy to do his monologue and then dragged Jose Mourinho out, and that was absolutely terrible. And it kind of seemed a bit more brisk this year, but yeah, I mean, it's FIFA. They're going to show it till the end of time. So.
Exactly.
It's the problem.
Yeah, Peds, what did you think?
About FIFA or just in general?
Just in general, and then we'll kind of go into more detail.
I thought it was a little disappointing. I was hoping for there some more Star Wars games. I think there's 2 more in the works, so I was disappointed by that because one of them is meant to be like a all new story with Amy Hennig, is it, the writer of Uncharted 1 and 2?
Yeah,
that was the biggest absence for me.
Yeah. So that was disappointing. Sports games don't interest me. Need for Speed doesn't interest me. Battlefield 1 does interest me, but I haven't got the season pass. The best thing to come out of the conference for me was all content coming for Battlefront 2 is free.
Yeah, pretty much. And obviously we'll go into more detail with Battlefront 2 a little bit later on. But yeah, I mean, exactly. I think it was marked for me more by what wasn't here than what was. Which is a shame. And again, we'll kind of get into that more as we go on. And Dragon, what about you? Any differing viewpoint, or are you the same as us?
Not really. I'm quite the same. I was disappointed, and the bar was set quite low before it started anyway, given what we knew and how last year's went. As Pez said, I did hope that we'd see more from those far out Star Wars games, especially when someone said... we're going to move on from what will come out this year to what will come out next year in the future. And I thought that we would see something from there, but I can't even remember what it was because I just blacked out.
I don't even understand why they're so far out, because Amy Hennig's hasn't been at Naughty Dog for what, like 2-3 years now, or more than that.
Yeah. Well,
I
exactly.
understand
The
where
thing is,
they
they
are.
showed a bit of like Cheeky was saying on the live chat that me and Cheeky had is they showed some footage last year. You would have thought it would have moved on a bit by now. Show a little bit more.
At
Yeah.
this point, I think development hell, but we'll see.
Is there any other kind of EA?
Well, exactly. That's it.
And on a similar note, I mean, I was disappointed to see what BioWare was doing, given that this is probably the last game we'll see from that studio before it joins the other corpses in the grave. For those not familiar with it, look up Bullfrog and Westwood Studios.
Yeah, I mean, I think BioWare need something to go well for them in their next game or two to kind of do that. I don't think they're that. I don't think they're anywhere near that at this point. I mean, for all that Mass Effect hasn't done as well as they'd maybe hoped, it's still a massive, massive franchise for them. They've still got that. They've still got Dragon Age. They've still got Knights of the. They've still got the Old Republic. So BioWare, I don't think are anywhere near that yet.
No,
but,
I don't think
we'll
so.
see. Anyway, so let's.
I'm surprised there
let's
was no
kinda
DLC
move
shown
on.
for Mass Effect. I've mentioned it.
Well, that's something we can talk about as we go on.
Just as a quick plus point before everyone tunes out, because it's four guys moaning about what a terrible show it was, that A Way Out demonstration was excellent and possible contender for early contender for game of the show. I really thought that was fantastic. But continue.
Well, yeah, I mean that's exactly. I was going to say. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. There were a couple of glimmers of good things from the show that we'll obviously get to go into in more detail a little bit later on. And A Way Out was definitely one of them. So yeah, I mean, let's start with we'll just kind of go through in order. I mean, obviously they started with Madden, of all things, very, very briefly going and went, okay, it's got a story mode called The Long Shot, which is, their equivalent of The Journey. But I think, none of us here are interested in Madden, are we?
No, not really. One thing I thought was interesting was how they said how innovative it was, and I was thinking, you've just taken something from one of your other games and added it to this one. It's not exactly innovative, is it? It's just copying, other teams.
And which that other game stole from an NBA game, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
There you go, Anne.
It's the game industry. Everything in it is stolen from somebody else until somebody comes up with a genuine new idea, and then they all steal that. It's just, it's the way it works. It's the way it's always worked, And I think, and I think to an extent that is a good thing, because it means that somebody comes up with an idea and then people iterate on it and come up with new and different ways of doing it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when it comes to we've just copied a story mode. No,
I'm not criticising in that sense. I'm just saying when you use the term innovative, it kind of implies more than what it is.
Yeah, it needs to actually be innovative.
So many words have just been bastardized by gaming companies and its fans, like innovative,
content.
Proper, iconic. There's so many things used in the wrong way so many times that they literally lose meaning when put next to games.
Deluxe
so,
edition.
Yes.
But yeah, absolutely. So started with that. That was very much kind of for me as it was for you guys. And then the first thing they kind of really dived into in any kind of detail was the DLC for Battlefield 1. So, obviously they made a big deal about, the community players that they've got, and then, they did show off some new stuff. They're bringing, night maps to the game, and they've got the next expansion pack in the name of the Tsar coming, which I believe adds 6 more maps, the Russian army, and a female faction as well. So yeah, it seems pretty decent for an expansion pack. Here's some new stuff that we're adding. This is what we're going to do with it. I think it's about standard, really. Although they were kind of pushing the idea that there's more stuff to come for it. More changes coming to the game, which they mentioned would be coming at Gamescom.
I hope so, because if that expansion has a single player element that includes the fight in the East, it actually will pick up the game with the season pass, because that was quite an interesting bit of World War One, and I've never really seen that in a game, so I'd definitely be up for seeing how that plays out and actually going through it myself. So yeah, I do hope that there is more to come in terms of single player from that expansion.
Do you know what? I hope so too, because I bought the PC version expecting to play with like yourself and Matt and so on, and none of you bought it. And I was like, right. And then I've only played the single player and never touched the multiplayer apart from once.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, not going to get into that discussion, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is about Battlefield 1, it just never clicked with me. I think I wasn't at the place where I was looking for another game like that at that time.
That's understandable.
So I never got it, and, this, doesn't really do much to kind of drag me back to it, because, as we'll kind of talk more about later on, I mean, Battlefront 2 is the kind of big multiplayer first-person shooter I'm waiting for now. So yeah. What about you, Kinopio? Do you have any feelings about Battlefield?
Looks good. I suppose it's good for the community that they're still supporting it with new stuff like this far out from release. But I guess that's part of their we're not going to be releasing a new one every single year model. But I never really got into the original Battlefield 1 that much, to be honest. I mean, I might be tempted to pick up something like this second hand if I see it, and there's like a edition with everything involved, but I'm primarily a single player guy, really, unless there's a good squad based shooter, which is exactly what this is. But I don't know, I just worry that these games are a bit too competitive for my liking.
There is always that kind of worry about them for me as well. I mean, I like a good multiplayer game, and one of the reasons I do like the Battlefield games in general is because they are over such, you are in small squads, so you've got small teams you're running about, but also because they're over quite large areas as well. It's not like, Call of Duty or something where, you're in quite enclosed maps. You've got space to kind of move about and, do stuff without feeling you've just got to constantly be sprinting everywhere and getting shot in the face within 2 seconds of coming back. So that's why I quite like them. But yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking of getting Battlefield 1 at any point soon. So
see, with me, it's like I enjoy Battlefield, but the reason why I play is for all like the squad tactics and all that. But with Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, I don't know if I'll go back to Battlefield 1 anyway, because you get the same thing, but you get, apart from the occasional arse, you get generally people working well together. Like Kicks, he's a good commander, to be fair. Like, but then he have played the last game for like a century or so.
No, you're right. I mean, Rising Storm does squad-based combat quite well. When you've got a good team and like I said, a good commander. I mean, Staydead's a good commander, and I'll give him that. So yeah, I mean, something like that in Battlefield would be quite good. But at the same time, it would maybe change what Battlefield is if you take it too far down that rabbit hole. But yeah, so that was Battlefield. Then after that was when they went off in their wee FIFA 18 spiel, and I think you are quite right. I mean, there are only so many ways they can show FIFA, and if what you were saying, Easy Allies were saying, the people who want FIFA, the people who are interested in FIFA, they'll go, oh, that's great, they'll look at it and they'll buy it anyway. It's not going to change anybody's mind. If you're not interested in it, their E3 presentation isn't going to make you go, oh, I really need to get that. So
personally, I think they should try and make it more entertaining, but make it shorter, because at least then, if it is a bit boring, it doesn't drag out, because it felt like it went on for ages. Whereas if they make it shorter, have a little bit funny, then...
Well, I think they tried that, though, didn't they? They brought on those two guys who were
tried the funny,
comedians.
But they kept it too long. It was like 10, 15 minutes long. It was ridiculous. At least it felt like that.
Well, FIFA's surely by far their biggest selling game, so, I mean, what are they going to do, really?
Yeah, but to be
Make it more
honest,
interesting.
I don't think that showing it for 10 minutes... The people who like FIFA are gonna buy FIFA. Showing it for that long isn't gonna change anyone's mind.
Fair point.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, they did clearly try to make it a bit more interesting, but to people like us who are not interested in it, it's still never going to be interesting. So, they've got that.
If they do try and make it interesting next year, and they keep it short at like half the amount of time, it might not be as bad, because you're like, yeah, that was actually alright, it was quite funny, and they moved on, instead of, oh my god, it's dragging out, why are they spending so long on it? I think that's the biggest problem. It's like those guys, people were laughing. Some people obviously found it funny. But then it carried on, and that was the biggest problem for me with FIFA showing too much time.
Yeah, and I think we're spending too much time on it now as well. So let's move on. I think the next thing they showed was Need for Speed Payback, which was, this was where we had the YouTuber who couldn't read an auto cue at the start, which was quite funny. But
It was.
Beyond that, it's Need for Speed, isn't it? It's
it looked
yeah.
pretty, but they didn't show anything. Like just someone driving down a canyon road,
Yeah.
jumped onto a truck and then drove away.
Well,
I didn't really get any impression
like,
of what that game was.
It looks like Need for Speed, but Need for Speed meets Burnout in a more Burnout way than we saw in Most Wanted back in 2012, I believe.
It's pretty much what I said to Cheeky on the live thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Chalky
I
said
watched
the exact same thing.
I watched the footage again just before we started recording, and when you actually have gameplay, it does look good, even if it is just Burnout Takedown again. It's been long enough that even going back to that level is good. It looks entertaining to me, at least. My only worries are the story mode's going to be too intrusive, and even in that trailer, it cut to cinematics much more often than I would want. And my other concern is the whole open world thing in a racing game. It seems like a waste of time. So I'm not looking forward to that. But I probably still will get it quite soon, or quite early on. Because actually, no, I won't, because I found out it's coming out on the 10th of November, which is like a day before Battlefront 2 will unlock on Origin Access.
Ah, right.
So that bang. I don't know why EA is stacking it. Yeah, I don't know why EA is stacking its launches for like a whole week within a week of each other. But yeah, that my intent to buy that early on is now gone. I'll wait for the sale next year, and I'll be playing Battlefront 2 from the 11th of November.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't mind it. I mean, like I said, I've not disliked any of the Need for Speed games that I've played, but and to be fair, most of the ones I've played have been since Criterion stopped doing Burnout and then started doing some of the Need for Speeds. So I mean, you're right. It definitely did look more Burnouty again, which is great because I love Burnout. And there were a couple of things I quite liked. Like things like where they'd smashed into a truck and the road was littered with debris and stuff, so they were having to weave in and out of that, it looked quite scripted, but I was kind of watching, I was like, I can't remember the last time I seen a racing game that actually had scripted events as part of its kind of story missions, that it's doing. So it looked okay. I mean, it's the kind of thing, I'll pick it up if I see it cheap somewhere, but all these games are just too similar for me to
pick it up on EA Access. When it comes up for that, inevitably, like the last Need for Speed did, or the one before.
Yeah, I think by the time I'm actually free to play, it will be on Access, so I'll get it then.
See, I'd consider getting it if it was like when I played Burnout Revenge, there was loads of people from Games Radar at the time, because it was back in the old Games Radar UK forums. Loads of people playing it regularly, so I played it and I had a lot of fun. But I don't think that would happen again. And also, who knows what the online is like, especially with it being open world. It just
yeah. What about you, Herbie? Kinopio, is there any interest in that?
Moderate interest. Be quite good to get into arcadey racer again, because kind of stopped playing Drive Club, which I think is probably the best racer I've played for the last decade. So I'm quite keen to get onto something new, considering I know it's not arcadey, but GT Sport will be boring as all hell, and not out for another 4 years anyway. So if this is the closest thing to, airing around a track for a couple of hours on a Sunday, then maybe it might be the kind of thing I pick up second hand or something. But it wasn't a bad showing.
Yeah, no, definitely looks interesting, but again, for me, it's something that's when I see it in a PlayStation Store sale, kind of pick up more than anything. Well, that was Need for Speed. You know, I said it's Need for Speed. And then moving on to, I think, which was probably the most interesting title of the game, as someone we mentioned earlier on, is A Way Out, which was from the developers of Brothers. What was the full name of that game again? Brothers, what was it?
Tale of Two Sons.
Tale of Two Sons, that was it. So yeah, from the developer of that, I thought that looked really interesting. It's, I don't know if for you guys, but for me, it had a very Uncharted kind of vibe to it in places. It reminded me a lot of Uncharted, especially Uncharted 4.
The very first thing I thought when it came on is it was called A Way Out, and I saw two people talking in prison. My initial thought was, so it's Prison Break, the game.
yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, I was expecting kind of a GTA co-op thing in that they break out and then, it would just be co-op GTA kind of. But it does look interesting, and the more I saw of it, the more I could see that there were telltale signs that it's developed by the same people as Brothers.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know, I think you maybe would twig, this looks familiar, this reminds me of that. But it looks interesting, and the co-op aspect is a welcome to see. Hopefully you can still play it on your own. Undoubtedly it'll be better with someone else, and I'll definitely give it a go with someone online at least.
I think it's a co-op only.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
Couch co-op only is, yeah.
No, it's not couch co-op only.
Yeah.
You can play online with somebody. I think it is co-op only.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure he said it's couch co-op only.
No,
you can play online.
I thought he said you can't play online.
No, he definitely said you can play it online, but it's designed for couch co-op more than anything. So I don't think there is going to be any single player component to it. I think it is going to be co-op or nothing.
And it's great to hear somebody so enthusiastic about. I mean, the guy who came out and presented it, he was brilliant. It's exactly what's been missing from the EA conference since they've been doing them, really. Somebody really coming out and jazzing up the audience and talking really passionately about their game, and then it was like he was dropping some megaton. He's like, guys, it's couch co-op only, let's go. He's really excited about it, and obviously it's I'm surprised how meaty it looked. What part of this no part of this game screamed indie to me. The fact that EA are funding it and then not taking any profit from it. It's okay. No, I thought it looked absolutely, excellent. I see the Uncharted vibes because the prison kind of getting out bit looked very similar to the start of Uncharted 4. But yeah, when he was talking about different types of activities you'd be getting involved in, and the way the screen was split up looked quite funny to me. It looked like one person kind of had a bit of a cutscene going on and the other person was doing a bit of action.
Yeah.
It looked like it might be a little bit confusing to play, so I'd love to see more of it and how that pans out. But yeah, just thinking about the possibilities of forcing two different people to play such a story-centric game, and say one person's has one kind of submission to go off and do one thing, say they've got to get back to their family, but that conflicts with the other player, and then having to match those. The possibilities seem really good, and I don't know. I've not played the Brothers game. I've only heard good things about it, but like I said at the start, early contender for game of the show for me. Really, really looked good.
Yeah, it was for me. It was the highlight of the show. Beyond Battlefront 2, which was what I was kind of looking forward to as well. And yeah, I thought it looked really good. I mean, like Pedz said, I kind of thought, look, it's going to be like a prison escape drama thing, and then you say, oh well, no, hang on, you actually get out and do other things as well. So yeah, looks really interesting. I love the idea, that you have to play this with somebody else. I can see this being the kind of thing I sit down and play with my girlfriend, for example. And just really kind of quite enthusiastic about that. I think they said it's going to be early 2018, so we're probably talking maybe.
Did you say early 2018?
Early 2018 for that.
Oh,
so
fantastic!
Yeah, which is good because I think kind of going back to, they never really showed anything that's beyond the end of this year other than that?
No, I don't think they did. They mentioned, oh, now we're talking about 2018. I think that one game they mentioned and everything else. I don't think they said anything else that was for next year, did they?
No, not that I can think of. But
Apart from maybe that what was it called? Anthem. Maybe that was 2018 as well.
I imagine that
Because I think that was
2018.
that was talked about straight after A Way Out.
Just watching
yeah.
this trailer again, it looks so good. It really, really looks interesting. Is that EA Originals game from last year? Is that out?
Yeah, Unravel, it came out. And
No, that was
That was the year before, wasn't it?
2015.
Yeah, I can't even remember what last year's game
year was something like Fee or
Fee, yeah. No, I don't
Something
think
like
it's out. No, I don't think it's out. I genuinely don't.
because that's what worried me. Like, if that's if that's not out, like, like when is this like thing that looks like a AAA big studio game?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when you asked about last year's game, I think that kind of summed it right up. I didn't even know what it was. And a couple of the Pedz and Dragon maybe had some idea. I think this is going to be.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is going to be different because I think this has made a bit of a splash. People are kind of, certainly we are looking at it going, that looks really, really good. So I think there's going to be more of a focus on this. People are going to be more aware of it and more interested to see it. Plus the fact this, I can't speak for last year's game, but this obviously has a date, a definite date that they're saying that they want it to be out for. So, yeah, it looks really, really good. So yeah, and then after that kind of moved on to something that obviously we mentioned, the BioWare's new IP, Anthem, which they didn't really show much of. They had that one trailer, and then it's they're going to show more tomorrow at the Microsoft show. But for me, yeah, it looked okay. Hard to really tell too much about it from the trailer. I mean, for me, it looked like a kind of mashup of Destiny and Titanfall. But
kind of seemed a bit generic, really. I think it's come to the point
a
where
little bit.
It's like, oh, the wall keeps us safe, and it's like,
another one.
whatever. What is this, Game of Thrones?
Post-apocalyptic America and Trump's walls keeping everyone safe.
Good thing he built them in the end, didn't it? No, it kind of seemed a bit generic, and it's like the character showed seemed like a Destiny character, and I don't know what was going on at one point. It looked like people on their knees or something. I can't remember, but it wasn't exactly enticing. I don't know if announcing your game and then saying you'll see more tomorrow was the best strategy. But at the same time, maybe they're thinking it'll build up a bit of anticipation because we've showed a little bit of a reveal, and then boom, it'll be out showing on the Scorpio. It'll look the best it can look on consoles, and maybe people will be more enticed by it. But
I think that's maybe what it is.
The best way to go.
That's maybe what it is. It could be that Microsoft have turned around and said, "Listen, we don't want you showing any Scorpio stuff until we've done the full Scorpio kind of reveal that they're going to do tomorrow, presumably." Which is why all they've shown is the trailer. Because certainly in previous years, Microsoft would have went before EA. Microsoft traditionally was the first one, and then EA would be later on that day, and so they'd have already gotten out any kind of hardware announcements. So I don't know if that's maybe played a part in it. But certainly I think they could have shown a bit more of it. They definitely needed something that was going to be a bit of a bigger hitter to kind of help back up Star Wars. And they just didn't really have that here. So yeah, again, hard to tell much about it at the moment. I couldn't even tell you what type of game it is. So is it a first-person shooter? Is it an RPG? I mean, alright, it's BioWare, so chances are it is going to be some form of RPG. But who knows?
My guess, just from going from the trailer, is it's a first-person shooter with RPG elements.
Yeah, probably. What about you, Dragon? What did you think about it?
It just went over my head because it didn't show anything that gave me a good indication about what it was. Like you said, we don't even know what type of game it is, other than BioWare's making it, so there's a good chance that it could be an RPG. And I hate just seeing cinematic trailers like that because it literally tells me nothing about the game.
I
So
agree with you. At least if you're going to show cinematic, show something that shows what the game is going to be like, and just the wall protects us from the people outside. It's like,
yeah, I
fuck
mean,
off.
yeah,
Show something
exactly
tidy. I agree
that
with you,
kind
man.
of that kind of trailer works when you have some background about the franchise. Like you could do that for Battlefront because you know what to expect from Battlefront and Star Wars, but this is completely new, so it's pointless. And as far as and that's what makes it even an even stranger decision to show that and then say we'll have more tomorrow at Microsoft's conference. Now, whatever deal's in place for that wasn't thought out properly because that just looks ridiculous. And BioWare and EA could have shown more from, say, a PC version or even just the Xbox version or the PS4 version and ignore the Scorpio and then leave that for tomorrow. But instead, we're left scratching our heads wondering what the hell this is.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I get the impression that they maybe thought it was going to have a bigger, oh my god factor than it actually ended up having. They thought they were going to drop this trailer, everybody's going to be talking about it, going, oh my god, Anthem, what the hell was this? Whereas we're just like, oh, Anthem, it's the new thing from BioWare. Oh, okay, we'll get more tomorrow. Certainly our reaction to it seems fairly subdued. We're not going, oh my god, we want to know more. It's just like, oh, okay, what is, okay. So, yeah, I think that there's maybe an element of that they maybe expected more of a reaction. So, who knows? And that really was just about it for everything else. There was a little bit about the EA Play to Give, where they kind of clapped themselves in the back for some charitable stuff they did, which is good, fair enough, well played, EA. And they also announced, I think they said that EA Origin access is going to be free all week. I think Xbox access is going to be free all week as well, and they're doing something on PlayStation as well that I missed. So
I think it's basically the same thing, but I think it's the games that are on EA and Origin access are free for a week on the PlayStation. They're just not in the access vault because PlayStation and Sony were like, no, it's not good value for money, even though it is pretty decent value for money.
Yeah, so there's that. Certainly have a look, see if there's anything on there you want to have a shot of for a week. Which brings us on to, obviously, the kind of big game that they had, that we all knew we were going to see going in, which was obviously Battlefront 2. What did anybody notice anything that we didn't already really kind of know about it? I mean, obviously it was the first kind of real gameplay demo that we'd seen, lots of detail on how it's going to play and so on. But was there anything in there that was kind of like, oh my god, we didn't know they were going to do that? Dragon.
The only thing that I took away from that they didn't know before was confirmation of how heroes are unlocked during gameplay and the point system. The single player we already knew about, free DLC we already knew about, but I hated you had to run to an icon on the map to play as a hero or jump into a vehicle, especially when the better Battlefront 2, the original Battlefront 2, god, this is such a stupid naming convention, had the vehicles on the map immediately. You just jumped into one and you'd earn the right to play as a hero by playing well. So I was glad to see that the point system's back, so you have to play well to play as a hero, but I'm not... Initially I was skeptical that the same system's been applied to vehicles in that you now have to play well to unlock a vehicle, but when I watched the multiplayer footage after the conference, I realized that that actually may be better than having the vehicles spawn immediately, because then you minimize the wastage. I mean, of the vehicles. I mean, I hated seeing bad players grab those vehicle icons and just crash them, and pretty much.
You're talking about me.
And give the favor to the opposing team, especially in 2015's Battlefront game when you played Walker Assault and you'd have a bad player and a speeder in the last stage. A pair of good players can win the match, but you have a bad player and you pretty much will lose unless those walkers are on low health. And one thing that I don't really like about these multiplayer games is tying weapons to unlock. So the more you play, the more you have. I can accept it for customization things like skins and whatnot, but actual weapons really puts me off playing. Well, getting involved in more of these games than I would otherwise. So this is Battlefront, this is Star Wars, and it still looks great, and I'll play it. I mean, hell, I pre-ordered the game before we started recording. But I'd buy more of these games and play more of these games if they didn't all tie unlocks to.
Yeah.
I think it's a big thing that COD introduced, was it?
Yep.
You getting XP to unlock your weapons, whereas before you would just pick your weapon. Well, and before that you could just pick up any weapon on the map, have a horde of them, and just shred people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Call of Duty introduced it, but they certainly popularised it. It was the one that
definitely
made it, do that. So, but yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't have the attachment that you guys have to the old Battlefront games, because I never really played them at the time. When we tried to go back and play the second one about a year or so ago, I just didn't get on with it at all. It just didn't really do anything for me at the time. So I mean, I don't have that attachment to their systems and their ways of doing it. However, certainly, I mean, I agree with you. I do think vehicles should be, physical things that you can go and jump and climb in and do. It shouldn't be like an icon that pops up that you jump in and then look, it's suddenly here. That's not amazing, but certainly, I mean, I think from what they showed, I think the actual gameplay looks much the same as the first one, which was good because I liked the gameplay in the first one. It was fun. I like, the classes. I like that you've got, the content's going to be free. Presumably that's maps and modes. In the same kind of way that Titanfall 2 did it. Which, to be fair, I mean, I think that I'm actually quite surprised that they've done that for this, because, I mean, Titanfall 2, I always get the impression, they didn't really have much to lose with it, so we'll throw it out, see how it does. And then, by all accounts, it didn't do that well, in sales-wise, so I'm surprised to see them put it on something as big as this.
Maybe they realised that sending Titanfall 2 out between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty wasn't the best idea. I thought they'd give a more popular franchise a chance and then see how it goes from there. Maybe
that might be it as well. But I welcome that move, because I never got the season pass for Battlefront, so I didn't buy any of the DLC after it. And even now, when I look at it, they're still wanting 20-25 quid for the season pass, and I'm like, well, no, I'm not paying that. Go away. So to get all these maps and modes presumably coming for free down the line, that's great. I'm more likely to stick with it. And then make the the unlockables, or the purchasables all cosmetic. I'm quite happy with that. But yeah, I mean, the thing that really stuck out for me actually was the fact that they let you mix the eras with the heroes. So, obviously the kind of multiplayer battle they showed, you had, the clone troopers and the droid army, and then so obviously you've got Darth Maul kicking about. That's fine, that kind of fits in with that era. But you've also got Rey from The Force Awakens, and then Boba Fett, and then Han Solo running about. So I quite like that. It was that creates some interesting mashups. So yeah, I'm glad to see that actually in there. Beyond just what we saw in the kind of trailer for it, a couple of months ago. What about you, Kinopio? What did you think of it?
I thought what they did, on stage for showing it, was really good. The woman who came out, she was excellent. Genuine enthusiasm for a game that didn't seem to have that much to do with other than just what she stars in it.
Well, yeah,
so she's not a developer or anything. But she was really good, and then having the John Boyega stuff, that was really good to get a big celebrity and showing that they were enthusiastic about it. The trailer that they showed of the whole thing, I thought that looked But I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah.
But then cut into like the multiplayer event thing, and then just showing it, I just completely zoned out and kind of put me off it. Like it went from, oh wow, this just looks, because I played Battlefront, the one that was it last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
I played some of that and enjoyed it, but I never bought it or anything. This was kind of on my radar, and after they first showed it, I was like, oh yeah, this looks really pretty decent. I think this will go on my to-buy list. But the trouble with these like multiplayer events is you show this stuff in action, and I don't know, some of the mystique when you show it just like it being played like just as a game.
Yeah.
Some of the like mystique and I don't know air of it's new and interesting like disappears, and you just look at it and it's like, oh, it's just Battlefront. Okay. I mean, of course it's just Battlefront, but now I've seen it, I'm like, well, I'll keep an eye on it.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. When before you see the actual gameplay of these things, it does have. You're right. It's got that kind of air of mystique about it. That bit of mystery. Kind of, you're almost like, oh, what's it going to be like? Are we going to have this? Are we going to have this? Are we going to have this? And then you see it, and you're just saying, the game you've kind of built up in your head, as to what it could be, and then you see what it actually is, and you're just going, oh, okay, well, it's more Battlefront. That's fine.
It's just the like mundanity. What is it?
Yeah, you see it and you go, oh, it's another one of these kind of games.
Stuff like that popping up on screen. But yeah.
I think that the multiplayer, even though you're saying the demo didn't impress me very much, which is understandable, I do think it looked more interesting than the previous Battlefield. I think
visually,
the fact it's got
definitely.
classes and things like that for you to pick for your character, and I think the point system sounds more interesting than icons. But one thing I was disappointed is the only bit of single-player footage that was shown was like a 2-second clip of something exploding and someone being sucked out the window. I think they needed to show a little bit more. That was what I was hoping for anyway.
Yeah, it was disappointing.
Whether the best decision wasn't to show it because you're better off not knowing stuff or not is entirely down to the individual, I'd say. So for me, a little bit more would have.
It's only going to be 20
cherry on the
minutes long,
top,
That's why they didn't show it.
Yeah. I mean, I actually quite like the format that they took with it, which was the same one that they used for Battlefield last year. Where they did their conference, they did their talking, and then they went, right, here's 25 minutes, half an hour of actual people playing the game. I quite like that because I mean, while I agree that it does take some of the mystique away, at the same time it lets you go, this is what we're getting, this is what it's going to look like, and especially when you've got a game like Battlefield 1 and Battlefront. But the original Battlefront as well, which are, they're good-looking games. I mean, these are games that look really, really nice. To actually go, it looks this nice, and this is how it runs, is a nice way to show it off, I think. And it does kind of give you an idea of, listen, well, this is what the actual gameplay is going to be.
You have to bear in mind, though, that the multiplayer action was all on PC.
Yes.
Now, don't get me wrong, the 2015 game looks great on PS4, but, well, it looks good, but depending on how much attention you pay to it, you can see the improvements in the PC version, and there's no doubt that Battlefront 2 looked fantastic tonight, and it'll look good on the consoles anyway, but,
yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, all things told, I mean, like I said earlier on, I think we were more interested in things that they weren't going to end up showing, things like, where is Visceral Star Wars game, where's Respawn's Star Wars game, with the exception of A Way Out, I don't think they showed us anything that we didn't already know about, so certainly very disappointing from that point of view, although for me Battlefront 2 and A Way Out kind of salvaged it and brought it up to just kind of like, it's okay kind of territory. What about you, Kinopio? What do you think? Same kind of idea?
It was a very flat end to the conference, laughably so. The fact they had nothing from Visceral, I get why they didn't have anything from Respawn, but nothing from the Jade Raymond or the Amy Hennig stuff. It's just like, what are those guys doing? And like their other big studio, BioWare, like saving their stuff for someone else's conference. Like, what are you doing, EA?
Yeah. I mean, what else did they have other than? I mean, what else could they possibly have shown? I can't think of anything else.
I mean, it surprises me because...
Do you know what they could have shown? Road Rash or Skitchin. I'd have been on board.
Skitchin.
You just mentioned Ubisoft. Like, every single year, no matter what you think of Aisha Tyler, like, their conference is, like, packed with a wide variety of games that some we know about, some we don't know about. Like, it's an interesting conference. Like, this just wasn't.
Yeah, I think it's always been because for me, EA's conference has always been the most corporate out of all of them.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's full of guys who usually spend their time in business suits, pretending that they're really interested in these games that they're selling. When half the time you get the impression that they don't even particularly like them.
I mean, they're moving slowly away from that. This was much better than last year.
It's better for it than it used to be, but certainly EA have lost a lot since Peter Moore kind of stepped away from it, and even then he was, very much in part of that, even though he did kind of like them to an extent.
They're starting to feel like behind the times now.
Yeah.
Even more so than last year, because this was like a E3 conference from 2010.
Yeah.
Like get people on, talk a bunch of fluff, and then go a little bit of
I mean, because I'm not. I mean, at the end of the day, these are meant to be industry kind of conferences. They've kind of grown out of that, in general over the past few years as streaming them becomes more and more popular, more and more people watch them. But that's where they came from, and I feel that everybody else has kind of managed to kind of find that middle ground between being a kind of advert for the products and things that they're doing, to the industry and to retailers, while at the same time putting on a show that the general public can watch. Whereas EA never seems to feel comfortable with it. They always come across as slightly too try hard. And I think all the YouTubers and stuff they had today, just contributes to that because. Yeah, it's just weird. They've never quite managed it for me.
I think you could get away with this style of conference more in the past before Sony's conference last year.
Yes.
And since that Sony conference last year, you just can't really do this anymore because it's where's the show?
Yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah, it was no entertainment really, was it?
Well, they had the drum guys at the start. Come on.
That's true. They did have the drum guys at the start in their American football shirts. That was,
That was their Madden portion. Those guys spent longer playing the drums than they did showing anything about Madden. Although actually, going back to that just very, very briefly, obviously they showed the kind of trailer for what was it called? I can't remember now. It was the story.
Play? Long throw?
Something like that. I think it was that, what's his name? Mahershala Ali, the guy who's in that film that won the best film Oscar, and he's in House of Cards.
The guy from House of Cards? Was that him? Because I thought that looked like him.
I'm sure it looked like him. So that's pretty decent if it was. And I'm sure that you saw a brief kind of making of clip at one point, and I swear to God it was him. So that's kind of good. I really like him. He's been
he's fantastic.
He was great in Luke Cage as well. But yeah, that was a kind of throwaway thing. So yeah, Pedz Dragon, any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
Best thing from EA, I was going to say E3 then, not E3. Best thing from EA was A Way Out. Everything else was meh, apart from Battlefront 2, which I'm interested in. And that's all I shall say on the matter.
And you, John?
A Way Out was definitely the second most interesting thing that I saw, and I'm actually looking forward to that. Everything else, other than the number one spot, Need for Speed comes in third, purely because
everything else is shit.
Well, yeah, that, and it comes below. A Way Out because it seems like Burnout 3, but redone in 2017, and for me, it's let down by the open world. and stealing the show is Battlefront. My concerns over vehicles have been alleviated somewhat, and outside of that, it still looks incredible. So I'm just as excited as I was back in 2015 for it. I've pre-ordered the PS4 version. I'll be setting up my Scorpio to play the what is it, Xbox Access or whatever version when it unlocks a week before launch.
Access.
EA Access, yes. And I'll buy the PC version for the single player at a glorious 4K resolution.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, for me, main thing was Battlefront 2, A Way Out, pretty close behind. The rest of it was pretty meh. And just finally from you, Kinopio, are you much the same?
I'm all in for A Way Out.
Hell
Very
yes.
keen to see more of that.
Excellent. And I'm sure we will see more of that in the next few months. Okay, so that's going to be our show. A fairly short one by comparison because there was so little really to talk about. But it's good to be back. We'll be back throughout the week with more Post-Mortems, and the next one coming up will be Microsoft. So look for that. It's probably on Monday morning that'll be out. So I just want to say thanks to Captain Kinopio, Pedz, and Mr. Moneybags Dragon 64, and I will see you all next time. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.